Dueling Dialogues presents His and Hers with Grace Matthews, Caddyman, and Connor Murphy.
Welcome to episode 16 of His and Hers with Grace Matthews and the Caddyman in the heart of the USA, Springfield, Missouri. How you doing, you two?
Great.
Good.
Hey, what's happening?
All fired up today.
Yeah, we are.
Good. Good.
So,
She's on a roll today. Watch out.
yeah. You know,
Kicking ass and taking names.
that's
Oh, God,
exactly
yes.
right. And so we're trying to tone it down here a little bit. We did our other podcast, and it was kind of heated, so we got to tone it down, get a little more zen, and think about our thought for the day. How about
Okay.
that?
Okay.
Day by day, I am learning to accept the flow of life. And when you live in the times we do, you really have to make an effort to accept the flow of life.
Right.
Everything in my life depends on me. It's
I like
how
that.
you react, okay? How you react to the things that are going on in your life, you know?
You know, we make a joke about going with the flow,
Right.
and that is true. You have to now because, gosh, life changes so quickly and so dramatically now. Just like the COVID thing. Who would have thought, 8 months ago that things would be like they are now? No one could have predicted anything like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree there.
And then I'm sure everybody thought like I did, oh, it's just going to be kind of like the flu. It'll come through, it'll go away, a few people will get sick, but then it'll be over. We won't have to mess with it.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's not what happened.
No, it's not. It's still around, and it's going to be around for a long time. And so, like I said, today we're talking about acceptance and forgiveness. And last week we kind of, I had thought perhaps we would change our format, but I pointed out that we didn't say why we did this.
Right.
And we do this because we're really damn bad at it. Relationships. Like I said, we've been together for 37 years, married for 32. We have 3 kids. We have more good taste than bad taste. So we just keep it up and hope you can learn from our mistakes. That pretty much says it for the Caddyman and I. What about you, Connor?
Yeah, I'm pretty much, when you have a bad health scare, it changes your perspective on everything in life. Mm-hmm. And all those little things that would bug you and bug you and bug you and build up and build off, those just don't matter to me anymore. Letting it go, yeah, that's huge. I just let it go, walk away.
So this was my next question for the two of you. You almost answered it. Do you have trouble accepting and forgiving?
I accept I have to wear a mask, and I forgive the big long lineups at the stores.
Very good.
What about you, Caddyman?
Well, that's a tough one. I guess I do accept that I have made lots of mistakes in my past, and I hope forgiveness is part of I hope forgiveness is what happens on my part and of the people around me's part. When you do something, it doesn't just affect you; it affects other people around you. And a lot of times you are not aware of the impact. And so when you finally figure out what happened and why it happened and everything, then you do need forgiveness for everyone for everyone to move on and try to go with the flow.
Yeah,
Right.
There's all sorts of forgiveness and acceptance. We have to accept things that happen that we
have to accept change.
Control.
Yeah.
You have to forgive, but it's a work in progress.
Absolutely. All of life is.
Absolutely, because change is perpetual, and without change, then we sort of, cease to exist.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, and that change will happen. That's for sure. It's going to happen,
Exactly.
whether you accept it or not. So it's better to just accept it, go with the flow, and ride it out.
And, to me, accepting, though, is sort of understanding.
Absolutely.
Because in acceptance, we have to believe, right?
Right.
And it's hard to believe until you understand.
Sometimes it's just accepting that me and somebody else are not going to reach a compromise, and we agree to disagree.
Exactly. Acceptance, one mistake I think that a lot of people make, and their understanding of acceptance, is that acceptance does not mean you are abandoning change.
Right.
Okay? It's like, I can accept that my son has a seizure disorder, right?
Right.
But it doesn't mean I'm not going to work to eliminate that.
Right.
I mean, whether that be medication, whatever it is, a health problem. You might have cancer, and you need to accept that you have cancer, right?
Right.
And that's something you had to learn.
Yeah,
Accept
absolutely.
it. But it doesn't mean you're not going to fight the cancer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think people misunderstand those things.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, a big life-changing event is usually what kicks you into thinking differently. Things are never the same. Yeah.
Well, fear comes in there a lot.
Right.
When you're accepting something, you are going to have to, a lot of times, face the fear of the unknown, because the change is dealing with you, or dealing you a different hand than you've been dealt before. You don't know if it's going to be bad or good. You don't know if it's going to be better or worse, But people are just so afraid. I was one of them. I was really bad about it. Change was awful for me, especially when you have OCD. It just, you can't take change. You're just impounded in you not to change anything.
Right.
But most of that was because the fear of the unknown. And now that I've learned to try to change things and do things differently, it's not bad. It's not always, sometimes doing something different is good.
Right.
It makes you feel good. You get a different look at things. It compounds change into different things that you thought would never happen that could actually change your life for the better.
Right.
Exactly. But acceptance is also, you're not necessarily saying, I like what happened, or I like, what is happening. It may not be what you want. It may not be what you choose.
Right. Right. Doesn't have to be
Or
Tuesday.
even support.
It doesn't have to be Tuesday to have tacos. You can have them any day.
In fact, I sometimes purposely have them on Friday.
Yeah.
I just do, because I don't want somebody telling me I have to have tacos on Tuesday.
There you go.
Okay? Especially, we tend to make them ourselves. We don't tend to go to the dollar.
Yeah.
That is now $1.25 or $1.50. I don't know, but we tend to make them ourselves. But you're exactly right. And things like Taco Tuesday, and we're not really, are things that are too supportive of OCD.
Right.
But that's another story for another day. Acceptance is an active process, like we've been talking about. You might accept something one day and you'll find out more information, so you're going to have to work to accept the new information.
Right.
So, change is constant and necessary. So it's kind of like a practice. You know how your doctor tells you he's practicing medicine because it's ever changing?
Right.
So is acceptance. it is a practice because it is changing, and pretty much nothing's forever.
Right, exactly.
So things change. Our level of acceptance changes, but acceptance is about our stuff. I think more than anything, it is your relationship with something that has happened.
Right.
And it can be something like cancer. It can be something like, gosh, I don't know. A financial situation. Someone's divorce, a sick kid. It could be whatever. And
Right.
those things change. But we have to practice acceptance of ideas and ideals. One of the things I saw a lot about today was acceptance of the gay community. I mean, when you look up acceptance, almost immediately the idea of being acceptance towards gay people or gay marriage is one of the very first things that pop up. I mean, that kind of surprised me, but it shouldn't have surprised me.
Right.
Certainly, I don't have trouble accepting that.
Right.
And no one should. No one should try to dictate who another person loves. But you do have to experience you have to assess your experiences, your beliefs, and assess your beliefs often, because sometimes they might be ridiculous and they might be based on things that you have learned, maybe way back in your childhood. Heck, I don't know. But reassess those. Question yourself often.
Yeah, that's another thing. Going back and relating to why you believe certain things or why you accept certain things could have been from an experience from a long time ago, that things have changed now, the circumstances have changed now, society has changed now. It doesn't really matter what the influence is, but it could definitely influence what you're thinking and the way you think about something and the way you handle it.
Exactly. Exactly.
You could accept it completely now to where 20 years ago you were dead set against it just because of the way things were then. God knows how much the world has changed in the last 20 years.
Right.
And sometimes go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Sometimes acceptance is recognizing whose lesson it is.
Right.
I mean, you may be a part of somebody else's lesson.
Yeah, absolutely.
It may not be your lesson, and you may be freaking out over something that's not really about you.
Right. Right. Now, I use a little technique called NEXT, and whatever is stressing me out, I ask myself immediately, can I change that? And in a lot of cases, you can't change that, like COVID, for instance.
Right.
So then you just stop thinking about it and you say the word next. You can say it out loud, whatever, and go on to the next thing that's bugging you. And ask that same question.
Yeah. And it really works great into the next thing I was going to talk about. And that is exactly that. AA. Okay. They use that same idea. Can I really change certain things?
Right.
And they say to ask yourself. Okay. And so they also use the serenity prayer. And whether you're religious or not, you have to understand that the serenity prayer is a really great poem to live by.
Right.
And it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, but trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. And I think that goes exactly with what you said, Connor.
Right.
What can I change?
Yes.
And what can't I change? And can we possibly just do the things we can change?
Very often
Because
people...
there's a lot we can change.
Yeah, very often people that do acceptance fairly easy and forgiveness, we refer to those people as open-minded.
Exactly.
And you don't want to be closed-minded, so, try the next technique for sure.
Well, and healing from pain involves acceptance.
Absolutely.
In fact, you cannot heal from pain without accepting.
Right.
You can also try to find the silver lining.
Right.
What good came about from what happened? There's always something good, almost always.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But acceptance doesn't mean staying in a bad situation. That's one thing you brought up at the beginning, Karen.
Right.
Is that sometimes it means, okay, I agree to disagree. Or, maybe you can't be friends with somebody.
Yeah.
There's just too many differences.
Absolutely.
And so that is also a form of acceptance.
Right.
I'm accepting that we don't see eye to eye and that this is a problem that cannot be overcome except if we part ways.
Right. Right. But you're doing something about that. You're able to do it. So if you ask that question, can I change this? Yeah, you can. So, let's use the example of your son or daughter tells you that they're gay. Can you change that? No, you can't.
No, you can't. You may not even like it.
No, you may hate it.
At some point, you have got to accept it, or acceptance for you might be dissolving that relationship with that child.
Right. And are you willing to do that?
I find it's horrifying that it happens.
Yeah, and that's a sad
There's
thing.
some people that can't overcome it.
Right.
And, I agree with you. That's terribly sad.
Well, that happens a lot when business partners break up.
Oh gosh.
Most of it is they just can't function together.
Right.
And it just seems like, too, a lot of times when they go their separate ways, they both end up being successful.
Right.
To a certain extent, maybe even more successful than when they were together. But the constant crisis of them not being able to be on the same path, it just doesn't work. Doesn't work at all.
Yeah, and acceptance is oftentimes a form of forgiveness. I did want to point that out, but failing to accept reality causes suffering where pain already exists.
Right.
Okay, it's like if you cannot deal with reality, you are adding insult to injury. I think that's something my parents used to say.
Right.
Don't add insult to injury.
Yes.
So lies are not up for acceptance. I mean, part of acceptance is that it must be reality that you're accepting. You can't accept a lie.
Right.
You can't accept a falsehood.
Right.
And I think most importantly, acceptance is a lifelong process.
Yeah, because change is always happening. Whether we know it or not, change is always happening. And it's going to affect us in some way. So, in the entrepreneurial world, it's called pivoting. When something's not working and your business is not doing how you thought it would be doing, pivot. Try something else.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like Einstein's definition of insanity.
Right.
You know,
Right.
if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you expect to get a different result, then
Right.
that's insane.
And I mean, as humans, we basically learn by making mistakes and having successes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, part of acceptance is learning from your mistakes, accepting that it was a mistake, and moving forward and doing something about it, making that change so it doesn't happen again.
Exactly. I think
That has to be done for you to be able to move on. Is you have to accept the responsibility of that mistake and move on after you've accepted that and seen what the mistake was, and hopefully learn from that and go on down the road, and hopefully it doesn't happen again.
right.
Right.
And even if it's cancer. Okay, if you're trying one drug over and over again and it's not helping, it's a great idea to try another treatment, right?
Right. As much as the doctors know, it's not their life on the line, and you have to have some sort of responsibility to also be doing things that would help you in your fight. So, yeah. Acceptance is a tough one for me with the cancer thing. That took probably
Absolutely.
the longest time to accept, because from the start you're feeling fairly healthy, and there's this like, no, can't be. Yeah, so you just kind of denial is huge.
At first.
Yeah.
And so that takes us full circle into the thought of the day. Day by day, I'm learning to accept the flow of life.
Right.
Everything in my life depends on me.
Right, and not others.
That is how you treat everything that comes your way. It is on you.
Yes, and we have to also accept that this is the end of our podcast.
That's exactly right. And we're going to try to accept that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the only thing we have to do this next week is to be sure to move that coffee table out of the front room, and so you can get out there and dance, do yoga, meditate. I don't care if you play with the dog, the kids. Just do something out there. Get on the floor and have some fun. Do something different.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Thanks,
Well,
everybody. Have a blessed week.
yes, you guys have a great week too. Enjoy your summer. Hopefully it'll turn into some swimming pool weather for you very soon.
For sure.
Yes, thank you. See you soon. Bye now.
Thanks for listening, everyone.